Welcome to episode 28 of Brass Unpacked. Throughout history, the fall of dictatorial regimes and the revolutions that have brought tyrannies to an end have left deep marks on societies, shaping nations, eras, and entire continents. These moments of upheaval, often violent and chaotic, have profoundly transformed the course of human history. In 2014, composer Philip Harper explored this powerful theme in his work, The Divine Right. The piece draws inspiration from a pivotal moment in British history, the year 1649, which marked the end of King Charles I's reign. After turning against his own people, Charles I was ultimately executed, an event that symbolized the dramatic collapse of absolute authority. Through this composition, Harper musically captures the tension, the fracture, and the far-reaching consequences of a power challenged until its final downfall. The piece opens in an England gripped by turmoil, shaped by the tension and unrest that followed the trial of a king accused of defying the foundations of constitutional monarchy. Sentenced to death, King Charles I makes his final appearance, escorted toward the scaffold erected outside the banqueting house in the heart of London. As this moment unfolds, a solemn and noble theme emerges, evoking both the majesty and the enduring symbolism of royal authority. Amid a vast murmur of shock and emotion, the crowd holds its breath as the executioner carries out his grim duty. The music then fades into a profound silence, reflecting a kingdom suddenly stripped of its sovereign, an England left to face the uncertainty of its future without a monarch to lead it. With royal authority now overthrown, Philip Harper musically portrays the rise of new forces striving to seize control of the former kingdom. The Commonwealth of England begins to take shape, signaling the gradual establishment of a republican regime. Among these emerging powers, the composer first highlights the growing influence of religion, particularly the rise of Puritanism, a radical Protestant movement that steadily gained momentum and reshaped English society. The second emerging power Harper brings into focus is the military, which had become a decisive force in shaping the nation's balance of power, particularly through its involvement in the conflicts between England and Scotland. This military strength is embodied above all in the figure of one man, Oliver Cromwell. He is appointed head of the Council of State, a governing body established by the Parliament formed in the aftermath of the king's execution. Cromwell soon assumes the title of Lord Protector, effectively becoming the head of government. He establishes a system built around an elected parliament, while executive power rests in his hands, supported by the Council of State. However, political tensions soon intensify and opposition grows. Between 1654 and 1656, debates become so heated that the assembly is dissolved twice. Gradually, Cromwell's rule shifts toward a more personal and increasingly authoritarian form of power. In practice, Cromwell frequently clashes with deeply divided parliamentarians. Some attempt to curb his authority, others push for the establishment of an even stricter religious system, while another faction is already advocating for the restoration of the monarchy. At the same time, new voices begin to rise, more popular, more progressive, and increasingly influential. Sections of the population start to question the very nature of democracy and call for broader social rights. Among these movements, the Levelers, who held significant influence within the newly formed parliamentary army, champion ideas that were remarkably forward-thinking for their time. They advocate for an expansion of voting rights, equality before the law, and greater religious freedom. Alongside these demands, the Diggers emerge, promoting the fair distribution of land and a vision of economic equality among citizens. Yet, despite the momentum of these progressive ideas, both movements are ultimately suppressed and silenced by force. Religious and military counterforces eventually turn against one another, further destabilizing the fragile balance of the nation. Following Oliver Cromwell's death, his son Richard succeeds him as Lord Protector, but the atmosphere remains deeply unsettled. In a kingdom searching for direction, political tensions and popular demands continue to collide, leaving the nation engulfed in profound uncertainty. To bring an end to the identity crisis shaking the nation, Parliament ultimately decides to close the chapter on the Republican experiment and restore the monarchy. Charles II, then living in exile in the Netherlands, is invited back and proclaimed King of England. After nearly a decade defined by the strict rule of Cromwell's regime, the monarch's return is marked by a sense of triumph. With him comes a wave of renewal and indulgence at the royal court, standing in sharp contrast to the austerity of the preceding years. This chapter of history reminds us that overthrowing a power deemed unjust does not necessarily lead to greater freedom. Without institutional balance or political stability, a new regime can, in turn, drift toward its own form of authoritarian rule.